In August 2011, my dad hurt himself when he tripped and fell at home. He was upset and uncomfortable. Even though my husband and I were having money problems, we felt obligated to take care of him. Family was the most valuable thing to us, more valuable than even our own problems. We couldn't stand to see my dad suffer by himself. He had problems with his back and arms and needed medicine and time to heal. Thankfully, there were no broken bones. While we were driving home, my husband and I talked about how we could best help my dad get better. We agreed that I would miss a month of work to give the care that was needed, which meant that I would have to make some sacrifices. We carefully cut our budget while keeping an eye on our kids' schoolwork and daily lives. Unfortunately, I was very tired, but I knew that this promise was important. We kept telling my dad to keep an upbeat attitude during this whole time. One morning, I went to the hospital to get his medicines. After getting pills, I went to the grocery store to get more food and other necessities. They got home, though, and the trip was very bad. I had to slow down because the car in front of me had broken down. All of a sudden, a big truck appeared in my rearview mirror and started hurtling toward me very quickly. There was no more time to move. The crash was going to happen anyway. Time seemed to stop at that point. I felt a deep wave of love surround me. It was an ocean of love that was so strong it went beyond anything I had ever known. Not only was this love felt, it grew in ways that are hard to understand. I felt like God was with me, but I couldn't explain what it looked like. I knew it was God because his love was so strong and filled my whole being. At that moment in time, God and I had a connection that was unlike any other. There was a full acceptance, love, and safety that took away all my fears and pain. God showed me all the good and bad things I had done in the past. I thought about hurtful times in the past, like when I was mean to a close friend and caused them pain. Even though these memories were heavy, God did not point the finger at them. He said, "I know your heart, child. I'm here to comfort you. Please know that my love for you will never change, no matter how flawed you are." I knew that things could get better because I had a strength I had never had before. God told me that punishing myself wouldn't help. After going over my life, he told me a surprising thing about my role on earth. God loves every soul, and he made it clear that everyone's trip on earth is special and unique. He told us that our trials are meant to help us grow and get ready for future projects. I started to think of earth as a big school where we are tested, and then, after the final exam, we go home and think about what our lives are all about. The most important things in life are not the things we own, but who we become. True happiness comes from changing and growing as a person. While I was in this deep state, I met family members who had died. They looked like they were never old because they were dressed in beautiful, airy white robes that gave off a soft glow. Their presence made me feel happy and warm. My grandma walked up to me with a big smile on her face. She looked young and beautiful, and a rose was carefully sewn onto her dress. My grandfather had a calm air about him as he held a big book. I didn't know some of them, but the love and soft light they shared made me feel like I belonged in a way I had never felt before. The place had a comforting familiarity about it, as if they had always been there, divided by an invisible curtain, but always there in their love and peace. It was clear that my family members were in a better place from how they looked. Seeing my grandfather, however, made me feel very guilty. He died suddenly of a heart attack, and I never got to say goodbye to him properly. I remembered him as being very kind and smart, and always being willing to answer all of my questions. Our last moments together were ruined by family arguments, which left me with feelings that I hadn't dealt with. As my grandfather walked up to me with a calm smile, I felt his love and warmth wrap around me. I told him I was sorry I hadn't spent more time with him before he died. "Son, our view on relationships here is different from what you know on earth," he said as he put a gentle hand on my shoulder. "In this realm," he said, "we cherish spiritual love and respect above all." His words were very deep, and I cried as I thought about how deep they were. The things my grandfather told me about heaven made me feel so peaceful and happy. Even though the world is a mess, he told me that our love will last beyond this life. He said that love is the most important thing in the world. Love is both an intense feeling and a powerful force. Love rules in heaven, and bad things give way to peace and happiness. He said that the most important thing is to love yourself and others and to learn to be tolerant and patient. I had done many bad things and hurt people I cared about, but what he said made me want to make things better. Our talk made me value life more and make a promise to grow as a person. My grandfather gave me a soft pat on the hand and told me that he loved me forever. "Do you want to stay or return?" God's voice asked me. I wanted to stay in that peaceful place, but I knew I had to go back. As much as I want to stay, I know that my place is back on earth, I said with a sad heart. God gave me a tender hug, and his love strengthened my determination. My grandfather again took my hand and said, "Remember, we are always with you," before I left. I thanked God and my family and said goodbye to them while I was overcome with emotion. "I love you forever," were his last words. "No matter what, you have my unwavering support." Stuck with me. I was back in the real world in an instant, holding on tight to the driving wheel. There was a voice in my head telling me to let go of the stop and speed up. Initially confused, I finally did what they said. I hit the car in front of me and it moved forward. This gave the truck behind me just enough time to stop. I stayed in the driver's seat and held on tight to the memory of God's love, looking for strength and courage. I thought the wait for the doctor would never end, and my stress level rose when the car door finally opened. I was shocked and pleased when the doctor checked me out and saw no injuries. I wanted to talk about my experience, but I couldn't find the right words. But I knew that God was keeping an eye on me. This accident changed the way I look at life. When I realized why I was here on earth, I started to enjoy every moment. A picture of myself next to my bed helps me remember every day that God loves me. This faith gives me the strength to deal with problems and be kind even when I'm not perfect. There were many hard times and hurt in the year after the accident. There were times when I wondered why I was still alive. Still, that experience taught me very important lessons. I sometimes long for the clarity of that divine light because I believe that God is still leading me. The hard things in life are easier to handle when you see them as part of a bigger journey. I find comfort in his love and the promise of an eternal link until I see him again.